This video is sponsored by Motorcycle Mechanics Institute. MMI is a school for motorcycle enthusiasts who want to train for a career in the industry. Check the link below for more information. Hey, this is Evans at Motorcycle.com, and I am standing here at the top of Jebel Hafit Mountain in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. And what I'm here to do is to ride the 2023 Ducati Diavel V4. And let me tell you, this has been an amazing experience. So what makes a Diavel V4 different from the previous one? Well, there's the V4 in it. So let's start with the engine. The engine is the next generation of the 1158 Granturismo engine. And what differs it from the previous generation are a couple simple things. There is new cams and new cam timing. There is a new intake and exhaust, and because of those all combined together, you have new EFI mapping. And then finally, there is a new, shorter first gear. What you get that's the same was the same counter-rotating crank, which, as we know, was originally derived in MotoGP technology, and the 37,000 mile valve clearance maintenance interval, which is pretty amazing. I mean, that's up to 3 times that of some of the competitors. You also get a 9,000 mile oil change. Another interesting feature of the updated Granturismo engine is the extended rear cylinder deactivation. Previously, it would only deactivate the rear cylinders at idle. Now, all 4 cylinders are always active in first gear, but in second gear and above, below 4,000 RPM, if you're at very moderate throttle, it'll kill the 2 rear cylinders. Above 4,000 RPM, or when you get aggressive with the throttle, all 4 cylinders come back online almost seamlessly. I think it was just milliseconds it takes for it to reactivate. And the only thing that I noticed when switching from 2 to 4 cylinders was the change in exhaust note. It goes from a deeper note to a little bit higher note. I mean, yeah, you've got a lot more power available, but it reacts so quickly you don't really notice it that much. The engine itself is a stress member. There's a forged aluminum monocoque frame that attaches to the cylinder heads, and then the single-sided swing arm attaches to the rear of the engine. Overall, the engine is more compact all around, except in its width, where it's, I think, 0.8 inches wider. Everything else is much more compact. Riding this bike is everything that the Diavel has always been. It's got the aggressive stance. The new stance is 0.3 inches shorter for 62.7 inches in wheelbase. And honestly, that's such a small difference, I can't feel any difference. It feels like the Diavel. The riding position is the same, with the exception of the handlebars being 20 millimeters closer. And in an upright riding position, around town, that might not feel like enough, but when you're getting on the gas and having fun riding on a windy road, their handlebar position is just about perfect. So let's talk about riding. What I can't tell you about from this trip is I can't tell you about city riding, highway riding, commuting, any of that. Because what Ducati did was they closed a 6.64 mile section of a mountain road for us to ride up and down, kind of like a racetrack. So it was pretty cool. We got to really experience what this bike can and cannot do. With the engine, you get 3 power modes and 4 riding modes. I spent most of my time in the Turismo mode and the Sport mode. The difference between those two is negligible. Both offer the full 168 horsepower. The primary difference is the way the throttle comes on. I did not find the Sport too abrupt. Some bikes, you get on the throttle, on-off throttle, and it can be abrupt. Both of these maps were seamless. The big difference between the two it comes when you get to the cornering ABS and wheelie control, anti-slip and stuff like that, or traction control and stuff like that. So what you have to do is, in sport mode, cornering ABS is deactivated. In touring mode, it's on. So it's up to you for what you want. You really can't feel much of a difference when you're on the throttle. I've always felt that the Diavel handled better than anything with a 240 rear tire should. I mean, it handles really well. And it steers quicker than you expect. Part of that's because of the counter-rotating crankshaft. The other part is the 26-degree rake, 4.4-inch trail. I mean, you can make this bike scoot pretty well. When it comes to performance riding, the limitation is always going to be the ground clearance. And I've got the beveled sections on my shoes to prove it. It drags cleanly. This is not a sport bike. It is not a sport cruiser though. What they referred to it as in the presentation was a mega monster. And that sort of makes sense. It has some of the same characteristics of a monster, but you know, up the ante, you know, a couple times. I mean, it's pretty amazing. With the V4 engine versus the V-twin engine, you have the ability to generate speed like you could not previously. One section of this road is a series of right-hand corners where we are pinned wide open and just going through the gears. And it is mind-boggling how quick this bike is. Fortunately, at the end of that section of road, we had some really great brakes because it was a very tight second gear corner. So have Stylema calipers, squeezing superbike sized 330 millimeter front discs. So it hauls the bike down from speed very well. The suspension, be straight up and down or leaned over, works really nicely. You've got 50 millimeter inverted forks in front. And I believe there's 15 millimeter more rear travel. The bike is planted, well balanced, and really, really likes being pushed around like we were doing it today. With a bike like the Diavel, people are always concerned about the weight because, you know, it is a big bike, and, you know, adding the V4 to it, you might think it would make it heavier, but it's not. The Diavel V4 is 520 pounds wet. That is 29 pounds lighter than the previous generation Diavel. And you can feel it when you're hard on the brakes or you're accelerating. The Diavel V4 is a premium bike. As such, you'd expect it to have some premium features. First, there's the 5-inch TFT display, which if you do pop for the accessory, will also do turn-by-turn instructions. The handlebar is no longer a single tube handlebar. It's got a forged piece or a cast piece here that I don't know if I should call them clip-ons, but two bars are mounted to. And what that does is saves weight in the front end, which is good because Ducati managed to get a 51-49% weight ratio front and rear on the bike. My time in the saddle on this bike was limited, but my time in the saddle was extremely fun. Having this closed road and really being able to push in a way that you wouldn't normally be able to on the street made up for some of the other things that I can't tell you about. At its limits, this bike performs better than you would expect. It's really good, you know, up to and past dragging its pegs. What would you expect to pay for something like this? You know, it's a premium bike, so the red model in the US is $26,695. The black version is $26,995. That's all I've got now for my first impressions. If you want to read everything after I've had a chance to really sit down and think about this and go over the specs and not try to spout them off from the cuff, go to Motorcycle.com, read the full review, and you'll find out everything about how I feel concerning this bike. If you like this video, click like, please subscribe, and if you didn't like, well, sorry, I'll try harder next time. Thanks a lot, and see you out on the road. Again, we would like to thank Motorcycle Mechanics Institute for sponsoring this video. MMI is a school for motorcycle enthusiasts who want to train for a career in the industry. Check the link below for more information.